Here we go with algebra. We're doing notes 25. It says use linear equations in slope-intercept form. The essential question is, how do you write linear equations in point-slope form? And to write an equation in point-slope form is to fill in the slope and one point that is x1 and y1. Okay, and the formula is right here below where it says point slope form is the equation of a non-vertical line, and it's given by this equation that is very, very important. So I'm going to highlight it so that we have that to reference back. And it says that it passes through a point that is the x1, y1 that I said in your essential question, and it has a slope m. These steps to do this, I've listed the steps out here, so you need to fill in the blanks. First thing is we want to identify what the slope is, which that's always going to be our m. And then we can use a slope formula to do so if we need it. If we're just given 2 points and we have to use that formula. But once we have the m, though, we're going to go to step 2 and we're going to substitute the m, the x1 and the y1, which is a coordinate that they're going to give us, into this big long formula that we have here that's brand new. And once we have this formula, we're going to go to step 3, and that is simplify it. So we're going to solve everything for y and get it in the form that we're used to seeing, slope-intercept form. If I look at my first example to start you through this, they give me a point that is a 1 and a 2. Alright, if we have that point, I'm going to label it x1 and y1. And then they tell me my slope is 3, so I'm going to label it just m equals 3. And I'm going to reference this formula up here at the top that they gave me. I'm going to rewrite it this time. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And I want to fill in my values into my problem. Okay, if I substitute it in, y1 is the number 2. So I'm going to place a 2 for that slot. The m was the number 3, and x1 is the number 1. Now I need to simplify this because on step 3 it said to simplify the equation until you have y by itself. To simplify, I'm going to distribute the 3 into my parentheses, so I'm going to multiply. Which is the same thing as multiply. Okay. 3 times x, there's an understood 1 here, so 3 times 1 is just 3x. And then 3 times a negative 1 is a negative 3. It equals y minus 2. Well, my next step is to now move this constant. Okay, I'm going to say move constants to the right. I want to move all the constants to the right, which the only constant I have is this minus 2. So I'm going to add 2, and this adding 2 has to line up underneath this 3 because the 3 is also a constant. Okay, so I'll have y equals, the 3x drops straight down, but now I need negative 3 plus 2. They're different signs, so I actually subtract my numbers and come out with a negative 1, and this is my answer. Okay, if I try it again, on the next example I have the point 3, 2 be my x1 and my y1, and then the slope is going to be a 2. So I identified those two things. My next step is to substitute them into my formula. I'm going to rewrite my formula here and see that I'm going to place them or copy them into my formula now. Let me change pens again so we can see the work. We're going to have y minus y1, which is the number 2, equals m, which is 2, parentheses x minus the x1, which is a 3. I need to distribute. 2 times the understood 1 is still 2. And I'm going to bring the x down. 2 times the negative 3 becomes a negative 6. And then next I need to take the constant, which is a negative 2, do the opposite, which is an add 2. Add it up underneath your constants. And that'd be y equals 2x minus 4 will be your answer. Okay, turn the page over. In example 2, they give us pictures. If I look at the first problem, I have to find the slope, which they give me a picture, so I can actually do rise over run for my slope since I have a picture. So I'm going to say this goes up 3 and 6 to the right, so that means my slope will be 3 over 6, which reduces to 1/2. So my slope is going to be a fraction this time of 1/2. Now all I need is a point, and I can take either point, it doesn't matter which. I'm going to go ahead and take the 8 and the 1 just to stay away from the negative on this problem. No other reason. This will be my x1 and my y1, and there's my slope. So I'm going to fill in my formula. So that when I substitute it in, this will be y minus y1, which is a 1, equals 1/2 x minus x1, which is an 8. I need to distribute. 1/2 times 1 is still 1/2. And then 1/2 times 8, I have to take half of 8, which is 4. Move the constant is your next step. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And my equation is y equals, okay, let me write that elsewhere. Y equals 1/2 x, and negative 4 plus 1 is a negative 3 for your answer. Okay, I'm going to leave this example for your independent practice, the picture, and I'm going to do one of your example 3s. It says we want to write an equation line that passes through points when we're not given a picture. When you don't have the picture, then I have to use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Where my first point, I'm going to say those are x1s and y1s, and my second coordinate I'm going to say is x2 and y2. If I fill these in to my formula, y2 is a 1 minus y1, that is a negative 3. x2 is negative 2 minus x1, that is a 2. If I simplify this, that'll be 4 over negative 4, which that reduces to a negative 1. So I'm going to take my slope of a negative 1, and then I get to pick one of my points. They both have negatives, so I'm going to take the smaller numbers. It does not matter which one. So I'm going to take negative 2 and a 1. Okay. I'll have my x1 and my y1, and here's my m, so I'm going to my formula. So that when I rewrite this, I'll have y minus y1, that is 1, equals the m, which is a negative 1, then x minus x1, which is a negative 2. I need to take care of my signs. I have a minus and a negative. Those both change to positive so that now I can distribute. Negative 1 times x, there's an understood 1 there, so negative 1 times 1 is still going to be negative 1x. And then negative 1 times 2 turns that to a negative 2. And then I have to move my constant. So this turns to a positive 1. And I have y equals negative 1x minus 1. There's my answer. Okay, I'm going to leave this one for you to do as well and see if you can come out with your answer for that problem. I want you to answer your summary. That was your essential question. How do you write linear equations in point-slump form?